Hello everyone and welcome to my review of Ganymede and the Moon expansion for Ganymede. Now, if you're wanting to just hear about the Moon, jump ahead. I'll put some sort of timestamps and stuff on the video. But if you're new, let's jump in and find out how the game plays. At the start of the game, you're going to get a player board. It's going to be fairly empty at the beginning, but as the game progresses, you'll get more and more stuff on it and around it. There's space for tokens, meeples on Earth, Mars, and on 2 different ships, as well as space for cards at the bottom. There's then going to be a market in the middle of the table, and each row of that is basically going to be something towards each stage of that journey, getting meeples on Earth, then moving them slowly from Earth via Mars to the ships, and then actually launching the ships. You're also going to have a reputation tracker, which is unsurprisingly going to start on 0, and you'll be slowly working up in reputation throughout the game. So starting at the beginning of the journey, you're going to need some meeples. So you take one of the tokens. Most of them have an option, say a red or a yellow meeple. You're going to then have a choice of adding one of those colours onto Earth, basically spawning them in at the very start of their journey. That token then sits in the first space along the top of your board. That's very important, and the big crux of the game is combos. If you are to take a second token of the same matching symbol colour, regardless of like the meeples or actions shown on that tile, you will get to do it more than once. So for instance, if my first 2 are both purple, then I will activate that second tile when I've taken it twice. Say that tile has the same choice of a red or a yellow meeple. I'd be allowed to have 2 red meeples, 2 yellow meeples, or a red and a yellow meeple to add onto my Earth. Now, it doesn't need to be your first and second, it could be your first and third. It could also be your first 3, which would trigger that tile 3 times. Earth does have a limit of 6 meeples, so you're going to want to start moving them to Mars. And that's by taking one from the Earth row of shuttles. At the top of these, they're going to show what you need. Now, these are mostly just colours of meeples. There's also a wild meeple colour that, just eases the journey. But say a card has at the top of it 2 blue meeples. Well, you'd need 2 blue meeples on Earth to then move to Mars. Most of these cards then have an action at the bottom. That card is placed at the bottom of your player board in the column associated with its colour. Like with the other tokens, if you already had another of that colour, again, not the colour of the meeples, but the colour of the card, now that's going to trigger multiple times. So not the moving of meeples, but that bonus action at the bottom, which could be gaining reputation, doing extra movements, maybe even spawning in other meeples. Well, maybe you could do that once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. You could spawn a lot in at once and do a lot of stuff on one turn because of the combo system. Getting people then from Mars onto the colony ships, well, that's a fairly simple way as well. You're going to take a Mars card, and again, you need the things at the top. So if it had, say, a red and a yellow meeple, you'd need a red and yellow meeple on Mars, and they would be moved over to the ships. It wouldn't matter which ship, you have 2 and you can choose for them, and I'll come on to that in a minute. Again, that card goes in the columns at the bottom and could then trigger its bonus action multiple times. Now, the 2 ships that you have are going to score you points when launched. The top one wants 3 meeples of the same colour, and once you've started putting coloured meeples in there, anything else can't go there until it's either launched or they're moved out. The second ship requires a meeple of all 4 colours. So while the top one needs 1 less, it's slightly maybe harder to do because they need to be all the same colour. When that's done, however, at the end of your turn, that will launch. It's going to score you points, and then from the ship row, you're going to be able to take a new card into your hand and then from your hand, place a new one down. These come with various point scoring. Some are just plain points. Some are maybe a little less points but give you an instant boost. And some will depend on what tokens and cards you've played by the end of the game, or maybe even how far your reputation has gone up the tracker. The third option you can do on your turn is a basic action. Now this could be changing a meeple's colour. It could be moving a meeple from anywhere onward one step, or from ship to ship. It's not used most of the time because it actually means you have to discard one of your tokens that spawns meeples in. It's not the best use of those because some of the Mars and Earth cards require you to do that. And it's also stopping you, doing that combo of your 2 or 3 purples, reds or whatever. At the same time, it frees up that slot. Sometimes you have to discard to do a basic action just to be able to then spawn more stuff in. Across the course of the game, you're going to be spawning meeples, moving them across the shuttles and launching them. And when one player has launched their 5th shuttle, the game ends. Points are going to be earned from a few different things, such as the cards that you've launched, as well as meeples left on the remaining shuttles, and your reputation tracker. As with many games, whoever's got the most points wins, and that is how the basic Ganymede plays. Like the roll and write in the Ganymede series, it is very combo-tastic. When you have got multiple cards or multiple tokens of the same colour or symbol, they are triggering a lot of things. You could do a lot on one turn. Now at the start of the game, it does mean almost when you're learning it, when you're picking things up, they're small turns. They're not too impactful. By the end, when you're a little bit more familiar, you're really hammering home and doing lots at one time. Yes, there's bonuses for collecting or having one of each card colour and different things like that, but it's those combos where you can play a card and maybe move 3 or 4 meeples across from Earth to Mars or onto your ships in one turn. It just feels like, towards the end of the game, you're really doing big turns. And then the game ends. It does end quite quickly almost. Maybe sometimes I almost would have preferred having to launch that one extra ship because you can't finally get this real cool engine of loads of combos happening and then the game's over. But it's over in sort of a quick way and not in a too quick way. And it's quite surprising. It's quite a sort of thinky experience for it really to, at the end, snowball up, and you can snowball. One player can do better than others and really hit home and hit the floor or hit the spacecrafts running. Production-wise, now I don't know about the meeple colours for colour blindness. I don't know if that would run into a problem. They are all like the same shape. I think they look really cool. They're nice and distinctive. You can easily tell when looking at the cards, right, this is spawning in a blue meeple and I'm needing 3 blue meeples, or I want 3 blue meeples on my ship to launch it because that's what I'm going for. There's a nice process of spawn them in, move them to Mars, move them to the ships, hopefully launch ships. So there's a nice progression. It doesn't matter how badly you do. Normally throughout the game you'll have managed to spawn some stuff in and then pushed it along this journey. Not sort of accidentally, but even if just taking basic actions, you'll get some bits there, even if you're not able to sort of pull off the combos of the cards and tokens. There is one quirk that I actually quite like, but it is slightly hard to remember. When you're using the reputation track, along it there are bonus spaces that give you a free basic action. That's great, but in most games when you pass something, you get to do that. In Ganymede, you have to physically stop on that space, which is fine. It's one tiny little rule that is slightly hard to remember. There's nothing on the board that makes it obvious that you need to stop there to do it. Most people go past it and go, well, I've gone past that, I can do it. And you have to be like, that's one rule you can't. Now, why I say I like that is it does create that option, that head scratching, when you're like, oh, I could move up a couple here, but actually if I move up one, I'll get that bonus action and I can do something else, and then on another turn I can go up. So I like it because it adds in a choice. I just wish that maybe something on the board or something was done just to make it easier to remember. There's a nice variety in the ways that things score. It's not a huge amount. You don't need to be really looking them up in the rule book a lot. Most of the iconography there is super intuitive. Certainly once you've played half a game, you'll know what all of the symbols mean and everything. So there's no real problem on learning the game like that. At the same time, it's not really a game I'd bring out with brand new players because of the way it combos together. I think it really does appeal to gamers that want that combo. They want to be able to take that, bang, put that down, do a big turn. I think that it looks a bit daunting, and I think that comboing, you just smash someone that's not used to gaming, sort of thing. You know, you'd blow their score out of the water, and I think they might not find it enjoyable because of that. And it's also just a few steps to teach. You know, once they've played a few games, then maybe they'll be all right. But now on to the moon expansion for Ganymede. This adds, unsurprisingly, a moon board. It also adds more than that, but the moon goes on the left side and then an advisor's board goes on the right. Now, both of these are pretty cool additions. The moon is not only opening up a fourth slot for your tokens, so you can have more combos of spawning meeples in, but some meeples will then spawn on the moon. And they will slowly but surely be sort of drip fed across to Earth, because at the start of each turn you can move one for free. So it adds a nice choice there of, well, I could move them with basic actions, or I could just wait and eventually they'll come across, and I really do like that part. So that's one very small part of Moon, despite that being the name. The second bit, the advisors, is the bigger bit really. So your advisor starts on the moon, and eventually via the basic actions or moving wild meeple colours, because it's a black meeple, you'll get that meeple onto Ganymede. Now, as soon as he gets to the ship, it sort of just comes off the board and you get an advisor. So it's not like it fills up the ship in any way. It doesn't help you there. Instead, it gets you these advisors. Now, there's 16 advisor tiles and they all do something a little bit different. Now, I wish that was more player aids to be able to hand them to everyone, because for the first couple of games with the expansion, you're like, what does this one do again? I can't remember. But after that, I think you'll have learnt the iconography. Now, you'll also probably have worked out what advisors you really like, because some of them do really quite fun, interesting things. Like one of them actually builds a space lane between the Earth and Mars, which means at the start of your turn, a meeple automatically can move for free from Earth to Mars. Not just from the moon to Earth, but you know, you can get someone quite a way across the board for free every time, every turn. Now that's a pretty cool one. Other ones are a little more, you need to use them in the right way, such as one that means when you take a card next to it in the market, something happens differently. And the advisors just generally are that step up. You've got your combos from the base game, you've now got the moon as a new location and sort of maybe new ways for more meeples to come in, and the advisors are there just to sort of give some point scoring, because depending on which one you take, they're worth more or less points, but also they make you feel that bit more unique. You can do this, your opponents can't. Whereas in the base game, yeah, what cards I've taken mean my combos are on this colour or that. In this, once you've got an advisor, only you can have that advisor, and it does feel like this is something only I can do. So it's that unique sort of player power, really. Each player can only get 4 advisors, and to be honest, you're probably only just managing to get that in a game. Once you've done that, you're probably snowballing enough for the game not to last any longer anyway. So that's what the Moon adds. Now, as a base game, would I recommend Ganymede? Yes, very much so for gamers, for the combos, lots of fun. I've liked pretty much all of the games in the Ganymede series, the Demeter and Varuna roll and writes, flip and writes. They are all combo filled. When it comes to the Moon expansion, if you're getting the game to the table a good amount, that's also always a caveat for an expansion. The second thing, this is small box, and as you can hear, no components in it because it fits in the base box. For me, that's always nice when an expansion does that. And it feels not so much more of the same, but additions in the right areas. I don't need more combos, but I've got a few little extras like the ability to have a 4th spawn in tile, the Moon, slowly drip feeding some meeples across. Then the advisors, that the main chunk of the Moon, to be honest, not the Moon itself. The advisors giving everyone unique player powers. It does make the whole experience, I think, that bit better. Not saying if you've got Ganymede, it's a awful game without the expansion, but I do think if you enjoy the base game, then the Moon just adds that little bit extra that if you're enjoying it, you'll enjoy it even more. It just seems to make the combos and stuff sing that little bit louder. Anyway, that is my review of Ganymede and Moon expansion, and until next time, have a brilliant day gaming. Check out other news reviews and such on the channel, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.